So welcome, Aleisha. We're really excited to have you here today and get to know about your industry a little bit more. So I'm from the South Australian Hair and Beauty Association, and we are a little bit green when it comes to the tattooing industry. So I've heard that you have an amazing and inspiring story for us to get to know. So without further ado, I'd love to know more about paramedical tattooing itself and how it differs from cosmetic tattooing as we know it.
Hey Sarah, thanks for having me. It's pretty exciting to share my crazy journey of being involved in the paramedical and tattooing world. There are quite a lot of differences between cosmetic tattooing and paramedical tattooing. I did start off as a body art tattooist with tattooing, and then I moved over to cosmetic tattooing, and I found that I used to have a lot of people come in for me to cover their scars, maybe the edge of their areolas to change them into a shape. They may have had tummy tucks, and along my journey I have learnt about how to do paramedical tattooing, and I now train it. And I mean, the differences that I say when people choose me as their paramedical tattooist is, number one, thank you for choosing me, and the reason why is because we're working on compromised skin, and not all body art tattooists or cosmetic tattooists understand what compromised skin is. So yeah, paramedical tattooing does have a special place in the tattooing world because there are a lot of things that we do need to know about the differences.
So essentially you're trying to say paramedical tattooing, its differentiation from cosmetic tattoo is the compromised skin aspect, or would it be the placement of the body, or is it the type of inks that you use? How does it differentiate in the aspect?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's so many different variables for that. So just say if I was to do a body art tattoo where I'm fixing the coloration of a scar, I'll be using body art ink. So the reason why I use body art ink is because it has a stronger holding power. I know there are some paramedical inks and pigments that they use which are more cosmetic. I have found over the years, because I've been doing this for 18 years, that over time those pigments do actually break down a lot quicker, and therefore they don't have a strong holding power as what the body art inks do. So all of my paramedical work, yes, I use body art inks. I do find that the different placements on the body will differ in terms of how I'm going to apply that ink in the skin. So as you know, as an example, if I was to correct a lip where they've had a mole removed or they've had skin cancer, absolutely on that lip I'll be using body art ink first before going over anything else. Same with the areolas, I use the body art ink because it holds better. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially you'll be fixing stuff like a hair lip, or maybe a car accident victim who may have had impaled part of their brow or something like. So that's the differentiation of
yes, absolutely.
And it makes sense that you'll be using more permanent inks because these are permanent
tattoos. We want them to stay,
you need to be corrected, aren't they?
Yeah, and I do also use slightly different needles as well. And the reason why is any cosmetic tattooist will know that the skin is pretty, it's pretty light, like pretty thin on the face. There's lots of oil glands. But when we're talking about body tattoos and body art tattoos, the thin is thicker, so the dermis is thicker. Everything just needs to go in that little bit harder. So yeah, the techniques are slightly different as well.
Thank you for sharing. So I am to believe that you've come from a makeup artistry background. How did that help shape your experience today, if at all?
So it was actually a crazy story. So I was sitting there at the table with my mum, and I thought, I'm 23. What am I doing? And I was looking through the paper, the Career One, that I don't know if it's still around, and I saw the page that opened and it said paint, and the word paint was written in paint. And I thought, oh my God, what is this? And because I'm obviously naturally an artist, I read this article, and never in a million years would I ever have thought it was about being a makeup artist. So I wasn't really into makeup either at that stage, but then I thought, hang on, I can create this into my creative field. And so I did a course at Paint Makeup School in Adelaide, and it opened up my eyes completely to the world out there, and I thought, this is me. And so that took me along my body art painting journey. I worked in movies, I've worked in doing special effects. It took me everywhere, and then I got to a point where I wanted more. So I thought, what more can I get? So I had moved to the Gold Coast. I was working in all those big crazy places like Movie World and had the best opportunities. But then I came across some people that wanted their eyebrows tattooed, and I thought, can I do this? Is this something I can do? And at the same time, I'd actually been given an opportunity to work as an apprentice on the Gold Coast in this tattoo studio. So it all sort of merged into one, and it was quite a confusing time for me because I thought, where am I? You know, I'm doing so many different things. How can I make it just one? You know, how can I make my journey just one journey? So over the years, I just managed to refine them all into one.
So you're honing down and you're niching into the brow space here.
Yes.
That was your first part. Great. So you touched on a little bit about the artistic flair that you have or that you've carried throughout as a child, and that's sort of got your interest initially. Would you say that being of an artistic nature is really essential to become a cosmetic or paramedical tattoo artist? Because I found that I think it's a trendy thing to do at the moment, and it may be attracting the wrong people at some point.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that. So when I do my paramedical work, and the reasons why, because I actually own a charity called Pink Lotus Australia Foundation, and that is where I help to raise money to help fund people that may not be able to afford to get a nipple tattoo after having breast cancer. So that's a large part of my paramedical work. But I do believe that when someone really wants to make a change in someone's body, so just say they've had accident, disease, breast cancer, anything like that, you really have to be passionate about wanting to do that, and not just the clout, not for social media, like, yay, this is what I do, certainly not for fame. I do believe as well that there are quite a few programs currently going around that say no experience necessary, which is wild, especially when you're talking about picking up a tattoo machine. So I do think you have to have a certain sense of understanding the outcome that a client wants.
Yes.
And needs for their soul to like regenerate from whatever they've gone through.
So putting it down to needing to have a good artistic flair and also good eyesight, I would say.
Well, yeah, and I think when you say that, you're right. I'll go back to what you said before, sorry. If you're doing scar camouflage, you need to be creative and understand the elements of what you're seeing in those colours. So yes, you do have to have understanding and natural ability to also see your eyebrows or your lips and see what goes with that person's eyes, so definitely a creative field is really important, like a creative flair with all of these industries is super important.
Okay, I've got two burning questions, so I'll get to one at a time.
Yep.
The first one is, I want to touch more about those cancer patients that you said that you've treated.
Yep.
I mean, how has your personal connection to them shaped your creation of Lotus Lounge? And, what are some inspiring stories that you can bring from that?
So do you want me to tell you how I got into it? Because it's pretty cool.
Go for it.
So I had a few girls that came into the studio when I was tattooing at another studio, and they wanted heart-shaped nipples, they wanted star nipples, and I thought, can I even tattoo this on people? Like, are you allowed to tattoo nipples? And I had no idea that breast cancer actually took away people's breasts at all. Zero clue. And those that haven't been affected by breast cancer as well, I don't think anyone's aware that it's a thing. And so I started doing my research, and this was kind of before Facebook. So the forums. So I went on to actual forums on the World Wide Web, and there was a few Australian women that said there is nowhere in Australia that does permanent nipple tattoos. And I thought, what? Why would people get their nipples tattooed? And so I kept going further and further, and
it was a hole in the market.
Well, it was, it was wild. I thought, what do you mean? And so I started doing research within Australia to see what the availabilities women had, and there was nothing. There were cosmetic tattooing, and a lot of these women on these forums said the cosmetic tattooing ink, it fades. So it fades salmon, or it completely fades within a few years. And I thought, why would people want their nipples to fade? Like, surely there's better products. And then further down this forum, they said there was a guy in America called Vinnie Myers, and he was the only one in the world that did permanent nipple tattoos. So me on the, my World Wide Web, got on there, and sure enough, in America, he had a tattoo studio, and it was there was about 10 artists, and they only did nipple tattooing. So I thought that was wild. And then I thought, hang on, I could be the nipple queen. I could do nipple tattooing in Australia and give all these women and men, whoever suffered breast cancer, the opportunity to have it done here. And that was my driving force. So I thought, why would you want to use a cosmetic ink that fades? And because I was already a cosmetic tattooist, I know that cosmetic ink is meant to fade. It's meant to fade on the face because of, you know, the oil glands and fads change. So I thought, no, I'm going to do this. So that was my driving force to get into nipple tattooing.
Nice. You must have a level of empathy that goes with having this role for yourself and, you know, that giving back. So just touching on that, is there sort of any government grant or something that these women could go for with Medicare to have some rebate for this type of treatment, or is it just something that you do for love? Do you charge?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Or do you raise the funds specifically just for them to come back?
When I created Pink Lotus Australia, it was the foundation. It's because there's a Medicare provider number, but currently only a doctor or a nurse are able to use it, which is silly because I've actually trained quite a few nurses. There is no training for this, unfortunately, with body art tattooing. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. I'm working on a course that's specifically for body art nipples, like the tattoos that last. So unfortunately only a nurse that's qualified or a doctor can use a subsidy. So that's where my charity tries to raise money to help subsidise the cost. So yes, I do charge because predominantly most of my clientele are women that have suffered from breast cancer. So I love what I do, but I would love to do it for free. So, you know, if there were any grants, exactly. If there are any grants or any fundraising opportunities where someone was to say, here, Aleisha, here's 100,000 each year, amazing. I'd be able to tattoo
and
everyone.
We could open up to a wider audience as well, because we've got alopecia clients who have lost their brows, or we've got you know, those plucking disorders. It could touch a few more people.
There's definitely a hole in the Medicare system, which, you know, I'm sure I have been working on it, and I do have to do a few things first to try and get this through, but unfortunately there's never any funding for this type of stuff.
So we touched a little bit before about your training, and that's a really exciting space to be growing in. So we know that cosmetic tattooing is an unregulated space. What would you think would be the absolute fundamentals that someone wanting to come into this space would need to learn in the paramedical or cosmetic areas?
I think as I've trained throughout the years students for cosmetic tattooing or body art tattooing, I have noticed that the health and safety aspects are not there. For me, particularly when I've worked interstate, absolutely you have to have, you know, bloodborne viruses, all these, or, you know, needle safe courses. I do think that should be a requirement for anyone to even pick before they pick up a machine. And unfortunately in South Australia, they don't have those protocols that are necessary. So, I mean, I'd be absolutely keen on helping to create or be involved with pinpointing the exact things that people should be having prior to doing this, because bloodborne environments are extremely dangerous, and especially needle stick injuries, everything like that. Not many people have knowledge about it, but in my studio I have created a handbook specifically for my apprentices to have as their, you know, log to go back and research, you know, why it's so important. So that is a huge flaw.
So Aleisha, I've seen your face pop up a few times at networking events and conferences. What is it that you're wanting to share? Why are they so important to you?
I love going to these events because years ago I was so shy. I just used to walk into a room and think everyone was looking at me, and you know, even when I started my makeup journey, my dad had said something to me, which I know he actually has pushed me my whole life, but now I can appreciate it looking back and understanding. And he said, why would I lend you the money to do this makeup course? What makes you so special that you think they're going to choose you for this movie? And I was like, well, Dad, it took one person to create the light bulb, and look what it's created. So basically, I was always pushed from a young age to sort of, you know, where my confidence level was as to where it is now. The reason why is going to these events, and you know, I was asked to get on stage and perform a few times, and it was, oh my God, it was the most nerve-wracking thing ever. But then you get up there and you look at all these people around, and they've rocked up from interstate. They've they've travelled on their own to be here to listen to you and other speakers. And what I think is, if you're not getting your message out there, you're doing your future clients so if you don't put yourself out there in the industry and make yourself feel uncomfortable, you are doing a disservice to your future clients, because by not getting that message out there, that could be telling them about, you know, your creative ability with paramedical tattooing, that could be, you know, whatever your message you want to be. If you're not actually getting it out there, you can't relay to your clients this, and your clients are sitting in that audience. And then afterwards going and being able to talk to all these people that have travelled on their own, you understand that they're just as scared as you. So it's really nice networking to create kind of like just a safe space for these people, because what I've found is the people in the industry that I'm actually closest to are the ones that own their own businesses.
They're very isolated.
Yeah, they're isolated, they work on their own, and we only see on social media those superstars that are like, hi, it's me, and they've got a whole team. You know, I do have a whole team here, but we're not, you know, it's different.
But you're niching in that space yourself.
Yeah,
So I find it a very lonely journey even for myself.
Absolutely.
And if you're going down the wrong path, there's no one there to pull you up.
Yeah.
And if you're creating bad habits, you're only strengthening those bad habits.
No one to keep you accountable.
People is an amazing way to keep not only connected, but to help grow your skills.
And I think by not taking that step forward and going, hey, I can buy that ticket for that event, it's only stopping you from meeting your potential future. So yeah, that's why I've loved them, because I can see how much it's done for me.
So I saw you had this amazing stand at the last event, and you had lots of different products in there that look fantastic. Is there anything new in the mix that you're working on with your business that you'd like to share, or even some of your current stuff? What's one of the best products that you think that you've created or added to the value to the industry?
I'm working on that proper training to have the elements in to try and get that Medicare rebate. So that I will slowly work on that. But one of the most cost-effective and important products I've ever made was the temporary nipple tattoos. And that's where once someone has lost their breast from breast cancer, whether it be a male or a female, or someone's gone through transgender reassignment surgery, I've made these temporary nipple tattoos. Because I used to work on film, and I still currently do make tattoos for film.
They get a trial run.
Yeah, so I actually make them, and they get to stick them on so they can use them throughout their recovery. So that's probably been the most cost-effective and rewarding thing I've ever made. So, and they're pretty cool, little nipples.
Beautiful. Well, we're coming to a wrap, so I think one more question might be, what is the absolute highlight of your career?
Being asked to tattoo on stage a woman who had breast cancer. So out of all my stuff, that was probably the most beautiful thing, because I'm so used to it. Like I'm very used to my clients coming in telling their story. Like I don't get too emotional until the end when we cry together and, you know, make a joke about something. But I didn't realise just the profound effect that the work that I do has on an audience. So when I was tattooing at the APMAC, which Australian Permanent Makeup Artist Conference a couple of years ago, I had a lot of women come up to me after who were technicians, they're cosmetic tattooists, and they said, oh my God, I was in tears. Like what you shared with us was the most private and special thing that I've ever experienced. And some of them had, you know, been affected by breast cancer in their family. So that to me, I didn't realise until that moment just how amazing the things that I'm able to do and how much I can change someone's life.
You're a superhero for somebody.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and it made me have more faith in myself, knowing that I'd touched people just by doing something like that. So being an artist, you can do so many different things in this world. So I feel very privileged to be asked to do that on stage. Yeah.
Okay, Aleisha, for someone wanting to enter the industry, what would be the steps that you would suggest for them to go down?
I get this question asked a lot actually, especially in relation to body art tattooing. If someone was wanting to get into body art tattooing, I would highly recommend doing an art degree first. That is the first thing I look for if I'm wanting another apprentice. I look for skill. I don't look for, I look for how they dress themselves, but I don't look for them suiting the industry. I look for their skill level. So that would be asking them, you know, do you have any art background? So with art, yes. If someone was wanting to enter more cosmetic or paramedical based background, if someone was wanting to enter more of a paramedical or cosmetic tattooing career, I would say do your research and look into all of the requirements within your health regulations for your councils, and definitely work with someone. Don't just think, I'm going to go and do a 3-day microblading course. Look at that trainer, see what they do, see if they know how to do removals, see if they know how to do powder brow, see if they know how to use a machine. These are all things, I think marketing is, especially social media, has given a lot of people the wrong ideas. It's more like, this is how much you can make. Now, I would say to anyone out there wanting to do it, be passionate, know that, you know, be creative, you know, like on the face, I was a makeup artist before, so I knew the structure of, you know, what goes well on the face. Research your mentor that you want to mentor under and watch them for months.
They really do need to find someone
100%.
that they aspire to work underneath, instead of just
someone that looks pretty on Instagram. It's so important not to do that.
And then just doing it and going back home to create some bad habits. So
and that's probably the worst thing. The worst thing to become victim to as well. So people contact me and they say, I've paid so much money, and I'm like, yeah, but did you actually do your research? So it's about not just finding, you know, that one person. Do your research, make sure they know how to do all of their work properly.
Yeah, and it would also be their homework and commitment after the course
as well.
Mentoring. Because it doesn't just stop at the course, it's a lifelong pursuit.
Absolutely.
For that artistic achievement, isn't it?
And it actually happened to me when I did my cosmetic tattooing. I paid, you know, $7,500, you know, 20 years ago, which was a lot of money. And she said, oh yeah, cool, here you go, lips, eyebrows, eyeliner, all in 1 week.
No.
And then she skipped town.
Sounds crazy.
Yeah, and then I made lots of mistakes on faces. And then I stopped doing it for a while. And then it wasn't until I found Georgie from Distinctive Features. She had a huge network. She was so supportive, and that's what I thought, wow, this is what I missed out on. So that's and that's why I like to create that type of environment for any of my apprentices or people wanting to train with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Aleisha. Okay. So Aleisha, have you tattooed a nipple anywhere other than its intended place?
Absolutely. I actually did a guy this year. He works for the McGrath Nurses, and he raised so much money for our foundation, and he wanted me to tattoo a nipple on his arm in bright pink though.
Just for the sake of it?
Yeah, because we have a foundation campaign called Share a Pair. So he got me to tattoo Share a Pair and the nipple.
Did you do this in permanent or semi-permanent?
Permanent.
No. Would you think this role is appropriate for a male looking to do this?
Yes and no. Actually, yes. The reason why I fell into this industry in the first place with nipple tattooing was because a man in the US saw it as a necessity for women, and he had his whole studio of 10 artists, some of them male, doing nipple tattoos. So yeah, I think I've seen lots of male tattooists do it in America, and it only takes one, you know, in Australia to start as well.
Do you think that he may have had a medical background prior, or do you think there may be some screening that may be involved for that?
Yeah, I think it's more being an artist. So I think if there's any males out there that do want to do this, I know there's a guy in New Zealand that has done them too, which is so great to see that men can also be involved in such a special procedure. So yeah, it's just having an artistic flair and the want to change someone's life.
Would you suggest cosmetic tattooing as a career path for your own kids?
Absolutely not. I'm currently getting all my tattoos removed, not for a bad reason, well, probably is. I look at my kids' skin and it's so beautiful and it's so fresh. I actually want them to follow their own dreams. I would like to think that with my guidance, with being a mentor, that I like to make the young people wanting to do my industry have an easy path. It wasn't an easy path for me in the beginning, as you can understand, the type of industry in the body art world that it used to be.
It's cleaned up a lot though.
It has cleaned up a lot for the good, and there are a lot more females involved, which is good. It creates a different environment. I want my children to follow whatever path they want, not just to do it for me. So if they do want to do something with tattooing, absolutely I'll get them in there.
Well, if they change their mind, they have a great mentor.
Yeah, well that's it, I suppose. I'm open to whatever they want to do in their life. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, what are the top 3 countries that you've travelled to for permanent makeup?
New Zealand would have to be my favourite. I did a masterclass there with Cherie from New Zealand, who's amazing, and we ended up hiring an Airbnb, and then our families did, and then we went to Queenstown. It was incredible. So I actually was able to bring my family. So definitely Queenstown in New Zealand. What else?
Did you go to Vegas?
I have gone to Vegas, not for tattooing though, but that was wild. That was a completely different world.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And France, I've been to France quite a few times, and that was beautiful. So they're probably my favourite destinations, but New Zealand #1.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I know you've come from Queensland at some point. So why did you choose Adelaide to set up your business?
Good question. I'm from Adelaide, but I lived in Queensland. When I left school, I thought Adelaide's terrible. It's got nothing to offer me. It's so boring. Little did I know that Adelaide was the place I was missing. So I left. I did all this travelling, all this, cosmetic tattooing, body art tattooing. I was lonely, very lonely. And then I noticed my brothers were having kids, and I thought I'm going to move back to my hometown. And this was the place that I was able to create my business because I had support. It's so easy to get around. Adelaide is actually my most favourite place in Australia, and it has been everything for my business and growing my business. Adelaideans are so kind, and everyone's there to support you. So yeah, my world changed when I did actually move back to Adelaide. So it's a good question.
Nice to hear. We do have great traffic and get anywhere within 20 minutes. So
as long as there's no roadworks.
To see Aleisha can get here in 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again for your time, Aleisha.
No worries. Thanks, Sarah.